Tanjiro goes on his very first mission as a demon-slaying corps member, and it's an arm-slicing good time. All good journeys start small and end epic. That's what this entire episode of Kimetsu no Yaiba was all about, as Tanjiro prepares to go on his journey as an official member of the Demon Slaying Corps. He's got his brand new outfit on and he's getting ready to kick all sorts of ass. And most importantly, he's going to try and save his sister, and thankfully, she's going to be able to join him on his journey, thanks to this nice little box that was created by Sakanji Urakadaki, which is going to allow her to be comfortable and take a rest until inevitably she busts out of the thing to start kicking ass. It's amazing that Tanjiro went through all of this training to become as strong as he is, but even now, even after just sleeping for so long, Nezuko is still a force to be reckoned with. It speaks for the actual, power of the demons themselves, and we even get to learn a little bit why she's such a special case, why she was a demon who was transformed into a human, and that's apparently because it was because of one very special demon, one of the original ones, and a guy that we've actually already seen in the intro of the show. According to Sakanji Urakadaki, he goes by the name of Kibutsuji Muzan. I probably mispronounced that name, but it's okay, I'll get used to it eventually. The point is, he's this slick-looking dude who wears a fedora, goes around biting humans and transforming them into demons. Why he's doing it is still a complete and utter mystery, but it's a great introduction to the main villain of the series nonetheless. But most of this episode follows Tanjiro as he goes to this village to try and figure out the mystery of why all of these young girls are being kidnapped at night, and eventually he actually finds out the culprit, but not before meeting one of the citizens of this town, a dude who goes by the name of Kazumi, and apparently Kazumi's sister/girlfriend was taken from one of these demons, and he has a strong case of PTSD. But due to the fact that Tanjiro has the ability to sniff things out like a frickin' bloodhound, he is able to get on the trail of the demon and eventually finds it by the end of the episode. A creepy demon which actually allows itself to move around and teleport through these black puddles. Visually, it's really awesome because it basically can appear from anywhere. On the walls, on the ground, from thin air, and the way that it's actually showing, the way it takes away young girls is really disturbing. How even when you're in your home where you're seemingly safe, this thing can just sort of appear from underneath you, grab you, and drag you into a dark abyss. But luckily, Tanjiro is able to find this demon and starts to fight against it, but this is a morph demon, which means it's unlike the other ones, which are basically just humans with really sharp teeth. It has a special ability, and apparently this demon can actually separate into 3 separate entities, which all seem to have their very own personalities. At first I thought it was actually 3 demons who are working together, but Tanjiro actually reminded us that demons tend to not want to work together. They kind of do things their own way. They're basically lone wolves in a sense, but since this guy actually has the ability to do this, this makes him a unique case, and it allows him to attack from multiple directions. I especially love the detail of how there's 3 distinct ones. One of them has 1 horn, one of them has 2, and the other one has 3. And this is a really tough battle for Tanjiro, despite the fact that he is incredibly powerful, more agile, more nimble, and can really use the hell out of his sword. He also is trying to protect this young man and this young girl who is almost abducted by these creatures. And it's only a matter of time before Nezuko breaks out of her box and starts kicking all sorts of ass. Again, she manages to be adorable, but also a real badass character all at the same time, and most importantly, it looks like she's actually been subtly brainwashed by Sakanji. Well, I really shouldn't say brainwashed, she's been influenced. He's been sort of doing these chants to her while she's been sleeping, saying that every other human, real humans, are actually going to be considered her family, and that demons are something that are to be slayed and killed. So whenever there are humans who are in danger, she literally sees them as her dead family members, and will actually try to attack any demons that are hurting her or her friends. And it ends the episode with her getting ready to go all berserk along with Tanjiro, and it is awesome. So what's the rundown on this episode of Kimetsu no Yaiba? Another awesome, high-quality episode of the series, which I cannot recommend enough. This show is just doing everything right, action-wise, atmospherically speaking, and giving us some really great characters. One thing I do have a question about, though, and that is a design that they chose for Tanjiro. Ever since the beginning of the series, he's had this very distinctive scar on his forehead, and in the intro, it almost looks like kind of like a tattoo tattoo design, and it looks a little different here. When exactly did that change? Did I miss that? Was there like a scene that I completely forgot about that made it look the way that it actually does? Or is it just a visual aesthetic they just decided to go with like a couple episodes in the show? I mean, I'm not complaining. I think it looks really cool and again makes the character even more visually distinctive than he already has been before, but still, it's just kind of a weird thing. Otherwise, this episode was sort of a great introduction to what it means to be a member of the Demon Slaying Corps. While they are incredibly powerful, they're also incredibly mysterious to the people, to the point where a lot of people don't even believe they exist. That is until he comes into town and ends up saving this young kid and this young girl who's almost abducted by this creature. The actual battle sequence is awesome looking. Again, this series is being done by the people who worked on Fate Stay Night, Fate Zero, and all that other stuff, and they have a high pedigree for creating some great and very fluid, smooth action scenes, and again, they look really damn good in this episode. Even the non-action moments always manage to look really great, whether it be the character movement, the character design, or just the actual atmosphere of the show, which I think continues to just absolutely bleed from this series. It always manages to suck me in every single time, and I love that this episode sort of ended on a cliffhanger, as I really wanted to see more of Nezuko in action, and I knew they weren't going to be able to fully display it in only the few minutes they had at the end of this episode, and then immediately cut to the credits, and I'm like, oh yeah, the next episode's going to be badass. Cannot wait to see it. I loved this episode, which is why I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. The first major arc of Kimetsu no Yaiba, and I can't wait to see where it's going to be going, and I can't wait to see where those other side characters are actually going to be introduced into this arc as well. Maybe they're not going to show up until later. The intro makes it seem like they're going to be a pretty prevalent part of the story, and I can't wait to see Tanjiro sort of interact with them just a little bit more. I know for now it's basically just trying to establish what it means to be a demon slayer and how Tanjiro is going to be able to, evolve in this world now that he has these brand new abilities, but still, I can't wait to see so much more about this show, and they're still doing a good job of building up, like I said, the introduction of the main villain, the fedora-wearing demon man. I can't wait to see that stuff. So, yeah, I'm just blabbing at this point, but I want to hear you guys blab. Tell me what you thought about this episode in the comment section below. The very first mission that Tanjiro is going on. How do you think him and Nezuko are going to defeat this evil villain? Will he get any answers in that battle? Will he get to learn how to transform Nezuko back into a human, or is that a mission that's going to take a little bit longer to fulfill? And what do you hope to see from the rest of Kimetsu no Yaiba? You thought this review is over. It's not. I just went out of town for the last week, so I didn't have a big opportunity to get this review done, so I figured I would combine it with this review of the most recent episode of the series, and it kind of works out because this episode is sort of like a continuation of the last one, as Tanjiro and Nezuko continue to battle against this demon, which has split into 3 and has the ability to disappear in a swamp-like puddle. This was a really action-packed and awesome episode with a surprising amount of heart behind it, and it also reminded me that Nezuko is a freaking badass. Like, honestly, I kind of like her a little bit more than Tanjiro, and that's kind of surprising considering that she pretty much has zero personality outside of being really pissed off all the time. But I love the fact that, she's still able to sort of hold her own in battle, and she doesn't have to constantly be protected and coddled by her brother. It's something that Tanjiro has to come to grips with in this episode, as he realizes that he's not always going to be able to be there to protect her, but at the same time, she still has the capability to basically bring the pain. And she gets to battle against these demons, which gives Tanjiro the perfect opportunity to come up with a crazy plan where it actually goes down into the swampy puddle where all of these demons exist. And it's visually really freaking awesome. What I love about it is that when he dives in, of course it seems like he's basically submerged in water, but visually it's very disturbing with the lost clothes of all of these girls who've been killed by these demons just sort of floating around in the water, remnants of who they originally were. And what I really love about this scene is that it establishes that, yes, since he can use water style with his way of fighting with his sword, it's actually amplified when he is underwater. And watching him battle against these demons and create this massive, vortex of destruction which manages to shred them into pieces is definitely one of the coolest looking scenes from this episode, but it's punctuated even more when we go back up top when Nezuko is fighting against this demon. She ends up getting hurt, and then he just explodes from the puddle, cutting off both of this demon's arms and even slicing directly through his mouth. Tanjiro is an interesting character as he has a lot of heart, and he seems like he would be kind of like a timid kind of main character, but when it comes to being badass, badass and being an awesome demon interrogator, he totally lives up to all of that, and he desperately wants to learn more about Muzan, this mysterious demon who is apparently responsible for transforming all of the demons into the way that they are now. But just by mentioning his name in front of this demon, he just starts to shit his pants in fear, knowing that if he says anything, no matter what, he is simply going to die. And in a last-ditch effort, he grows his arms back, tries to attack and escape, but that's when Tanjiro has no choice but to decapitate him and killing him, effectively putting an end to his very first mission as a demon slayer. Now, another thing that was really powerful about this scene is that while he was able to defeat the demon and he was able to save this young girl and Kazumi, he really wasn't able to give it like a fairy tale ending. This doesn't necessarily end with smiles, with all of the girls who've been kidnapped coming back to life and returning to their loved ones. They're all dead, and that's something that Mr. Kazumi is going to have to live with, and at first he's very angry at Tanjiro for not being able to actually save him or anyone, or even being able to understand what it means to lose a loved one, and Tanjiro doesn't even have to say anything in order to basically let him know that yes, he's been through this, and even on a greater scale, with his entire family being slaughtered. Kazumi does realize this at the last second, and ends up apologizing and thanking Tanjiro for his services. He also recognizes that this is not just a young boy. This is a boy who has become a man, who's gone through some hardened training, and it's all shown visually through the palms of his hands, which are dirty and calloused. Truly, he's been through hell and back, and this is just the beginning of his journeys. And there's going to be no respite for him at all, as he's immediately met by one of these crows, which tells him his next mission is about to begin in Asakusa, Tokyo, which, unlike a lot of the other cities that we've seen thus far, is a much larger, bustling, and very bright city, much to the surprise of Tanjiro. He's actually a little overwhelmed by actually being in a city like this for the very first time, and it also made me realize that this is definitely taking place at a time in Japan when things were starting to become a lot more modernized, and it's just really great getting to see him experience all this amazing stuff. It's a nice visual change from the small villages and snowy mountains that we've already seen thus far in the series, and again, he tries to take a moment and rest, but before he can, he immediately catches the scent of a familiar demon, the one that is responsible for killing his family, none other than Muzan himself, and he actually finds him in the middle of the city, and we get our very first glimpse of this character. We've already seen him in the intro, but we actually get to see him here, and basically he's this dude wearing a slick suit and a fedora, he's got red eyes, and he just comes across as kind of like a smooth talker kind of character, and while he is incredibly intimidating and there's a great air about him, he also manages to have a shield with him, and that takes the form of a young human girl who is apparently his daughter. He's basically hiding amongst the humans and has even formed a relationship with a human woman and has a family. This is sort of like the perfect way to protect himself from the demon slayers, as they don't want to cause any sort of commotion in a very crowded area, and yet he still manages to take advantage of the situation by casually scratching the neck of a random person in the streets, who suddenly transforms into a demon, starts attacking his girlfriend, and commotion just immediately ensues. Muzan is already a great villain, and he's done practically nothing from the series so far. So, what's the rundown on this episode? This was a great continuation of this one. In fact, I liked it just a little bit more, mostly for the introduction of Muzan, who, like I said, he's barely really done anything thus far, but he's already just a really cool villain. That's the best way to kind of put him. I have a feeling he's going to be very popular amongst the cosplay community, and I especially love Tanjiro's attitude towards him, as, like I said, Tanjiro is unlike a lot of other protagonists. He seems to have a lot of sympathy for the enemies that he goes up against, except with Muzan, it's pure and utter hatred. And it actually does kind of make sense. I mean, one, they are the ones that killed his family, but two, Muzan is sort of responsible for all of the demons existing in this world in the first place. So basically, he's trying to stamp out all of this evilness at the absolute source. And he's willing to do it right here, but still, when he is just taken aback by seeing this young child and the fact that he's with a family and he's trying to like put on that facade of actually being a human, you can tell that it kind of shakes him just a little bit, and it was a really powerful and disturbing moment. I truly did love that, I do have to say. And also, the series from a production standpoint just continues to look absolutely amazing. One little touch, and I can't believe I even have to say this, but it's a common thing that I see in anime nowadays whenever they go into like a city or a crowded setting. A lot of the times, the citizens and the background and everything, lately they've been done with terrible looking CGI animation, and thankfully it is kept to an absolute minimum when they go to Tokyo here. Almost every citizen looks like that they are hand-drawn, they have actual distinctive features to them, and it doesn't look completely out of place. I just want to say, the people that animate this series, you're doing a great job. Whether it's with the actual action scenes, or even just the small background elements, everything in this series just looks so detailed and amazing. Just the udon that he was eating looked absolutely delicious. But again, that's just a case of anime always making food look incredibly amazing and delicious. That, and like I said, just the beginning action scenes with him and Nezuko were really fantastic, and the big build up to actually finally seeing the villain for the first time and the shock that he's actually living amongst the humans, that's pretty freaking great right there. I loved this episode, and that's why I'm going to drop a 5 out of 5 on it, and you guys definitely need to check it out. If any of you did watch the episode, tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below, as well as the previous episode, the introduction of Muzan, and what you hope to see from the rest of Kimetsu no Yaiba. Thank you for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.